Okay, welcome everyone. Today is the 8th session of Sitecore Headless Development User Group. And today we have to present us. We have Tyler Holmes, who will be sharing the insights about Next.js link component with us. And we also have Josh Oliver, who will share something new that would be OrderCloud. With that in mind, welcome in Tyler. And the stage is yours.
To start, I'd just like to thank Martin for allowing me to preach such a niche topic to everyone. I greatly appreciate the opportunity. Now, I guess, who am I? I'm Tyler Holmes. I'm a full stack developer at Fish Tank Consulting. I've been using React since mid-2019, just after the introduction of React hooks, and I've had the luxury of building multiple custom CMS solutions with Next.js back when Next.js version 11 was initially released. Although recently I've been working exclusively with the Sitecore Headless solutions, obviously with the Next.js front end. So today we're going to be digging into some of the more unknown and more powerful aspects of the Next.js link component, and we're going to cover how it compares to the Sitecore JSS link. These two linking components should play a pivotal role in how your users navigate any headless Sitecore website that you create. So our agenda. We have three major topics that we're going to touch today. Number one, the difference between Next.link and Sitecore link. So coming out of this, you will not only know what the difference is, but hopefully be able to utilize the linking capabilities way more. How to configure Next.link for both version 12 and 13 and above. So you'll learn how to apply what you learn to both new projects and then any old projects that are still running on an older version of Next.js. And finally, we're going to cover how Next.js preloading works, since this is the biggest benefit of the Next.link component, so it's important that we try to fully understand how it works. So, I've so far just been some guy talking about his accomplishments and what today's agenda is, but the real question is, what is Next.link? Well, to put it simply, Next.link is a stock React component built by the Next.js team that builds upon the standard HTML anchor tag element to provide us extra native prefetching for client-side navigation. So it very closely resembles the native anchor tag, but provides some extra advantages such as customizable navigation behavior via props, enhanced performance, and some SEO benefits. When we compare the Next.link tag to the normal anchor tag, you can see that we have some extra attributes on the Next.link compared to the normal anchor element. You'll notice that most of the elements remain the same, so both tags are using href, class name, and onClick. However, in this specific example, we have two new attributes, prefetch and scroll. Now, Next.js has a lot of potential parameters that you can use. I have this massive table on screen, just overloading you with information right now, and this isn't even all of the attributes and parameters that the Next.link component has. But these specific attributes are what make Next.link so powerful, and it's part of the reason that Next.link component itself is so versatile. So I'm going to go over some of the more powerful ones. So first up, we're going to cover prefetch. This is one of the main points of the presentation. So what is it? Well, most of the link benefits are for internal linking, and this is mainly used for preloading data. That said, Next.link also handles external links without any issues. Now, prefetch is the attribute that determines how the preloading works, which we're going to cover again more towards the end of the presentation, but I want to start trickling some of that information in now to kind of make it easier for you to understand later. So page preloading happens when the Next.link component enters the user's viewport. Similar to how animations work, you can think intersection observer. Next.js will automatically prefetch the data from the internal link and load that linked page. This is done in the background with the goal of improving client-side navigation performance. So as you can see in this example on screen, as the element enters the viewport, the value on the right-hand side there turns to true. So in Next.js, it would be as soon as the div enters the viewport, any links that are inside that div would be automatically preloaded. Oh, and a good thing to note, prefetching is only enabled in the production environment. It's not enabled by default in the development environment. The next attribute I want to talk about is replace. This works the same as the next router.replace, except it's specifically for link elements. Now, Obviously, it defaults to false, but when it's set to true, it will replace the current history state instead of adding a new URL into the browser's history stack. This is great if you want to navigate the user to a new page, but don't want to change the history stack. So for example, imagine you have maybe a multi-step form or a wizard-like interface. As the user progresses through the steps, you want them to be able to navigate between the steps, but you don't want each step to add a new entry into the browser history. This way, if the user hits the back button, they won't go back through each step. Instead, they'll return directly to the page they were on before they started the form. Passhref is used mainly in the legacy next link component, so it forces the link component to pass the href value property down to its child. So in this specific example, we'll be passing that href value, that /dashboard, directly into the anchor tag. Again, this is used mainly in the legacy next link component, which I'll cover more very soon. Shallow is another great property. It's also available within the next router, and sometimes it's something that I use that like pretty much all the time when developing complex forms. It allows us to update the path of the current page without rerunning get static props, get server-side props, or get initial props. So this is particularly beneficial in any cases where you want to change only part of the state or update the URL query parameters without refetching or re-rendering the entire page. The last attribute I'm going to highlight is locale. As a developer in Canada, a bilingual country, we are constantly tasked with building websites that need to support both an English and French front-end user interface. So the active locale is automatically prepended to the URL, and it's going to make it easier to manage your multilingual sites. However, with the locale attribute, you can override this by providing a different locale if needed, so you can manually enter which locale you want. Now, if you want to disable the default functionality, you can set locale to false. So this will mean that you'll need to include the local manual in the href itself. So you'll provide the fr or the en directly in the href value. This provides great flexibility, and it's pretty crucial for ensuring that our websites cater to those linguistic needs of our users while maintaining that precise control over the URL structure. All right, so I've talked a lot about next link specifically, but like we as Sitecore developers more frequently use the Sitecore JSS link component. So why did I just talk extensively about what next link is and how is it different from Sitecore JSS link? Well, the answer is pretty simple. The Sitecore JSS link is the same thing as the next link. In fact, it's an expansion of the next link. The main difference is that the JSS component will check if the link is internal or external and renders using either the Next.js link component or it'll render using a normal anchor tag. It also has some great built-in functionality for the Sitecore edit mode. The Next.js SDK link component in normal mode, so what your average user is going to see on the front end of the site, returns the next link component that we've been talking about. This allows you to control prefetching and all the other attributes on the next link component. Then inside edit mode, so inside Experience Editor or Sitecore Pages, it will return the React SDK link component. Now, the React SDK link component in edit mode returns an editable span with or without a simple anchor tag inside. So the main point here is that this does not have the prefetch functionality. So in like a mini conclusion, this prevents prefetching from causing any weird performance issues in Experience Editor or Pages when using SSR. Now, for those exact reasons, you should always try to prioritize the use of Sitecore JSS link. There are some niche scenarios where the traditional next link could be more useful, but you should always try to attempt to use JSS link when possible. So how do you configure the Next.js link? It's actually super easy. In Next.js version 12 and under, your version of NextLink will be different. You'll be using what's currently labeled as the legacy link. The main difference you'll notice as a developer is that the legacy link requires an anchor tag to be nested inside the link tag. Then you can then apply all the properties like onClick, class name, directly to the anchor tag itself. So using passhref is one of the attributes we talked about earlier, is also a required property for legacy links. While the link will function without the property. The href value won't be passed down to the anchor tag. So the browser and any bots crawling the site wouldn't see it as a normal link change. It would see it as a JavaScript route change. And depending on the bot, it might not even detect it as a link at all. So you can enable this functionality in Next.js 13 and above by using the legacy behavior attribute, but there's no real reason to, because the modern Next.js link is so much better overall. There was actually nothing more fun than spending hours going through all of my links on my Next.js 12 projects to make sure they worked correctly after updating it to Next 13. So the Next 13 link, or the modern link, is what's currently used by Next.js and Sitecore JSS. So that main difference is the removal of that nested anchor tag, and therefore the removal of the requirement to use the pass href. Now you can just put all the attributes you want directly onto the link tag itself. So what is preloading? We all know what standard preloading is, where you try to preload and prioritize scripts or hero images when the user starts to load onto the web page. But specifically, what is next link preloading? Well, next link preloading or prefetching is one of the reasons Next.js feels so fast as a user. The idea is for Next.js to immediately preload all the internal links that are within the user's viewport. So this picture shows how your standard MVC or like PHP website will load. Once the user decides to navigate to a page and clicks on the link, that's when the browser will start to load the page data. Now with prefetching, we will proactively prefetch all the resources for the pages that are within the user's viewport. So if you think back to the intersection observer example I showed earlier, as soon as a new link enters the user's viewport, Next.js will automatically send that data to the user's computer, resulting in extremely fast navigation between pages. Now, that sounds great. Extremely fast navigation between pages is exactly what we want, but this can also slow down initial page loads when the user first lands on the page, and this will subsequently affect any dynamically imported components or lazy loaded images. Because the browser is so busy trying to load these like above the fold links, a user with a slower computer or a worse internet connection is going to struggle. So now you might be thinking, okay, how do I disable next preloading? Well, the short answer is you can't actually disable it, but some of the keen-eyed among you might have noticed that I've shown a few examples with the Next.js component link with the prefetch attribute, and I've had that value set to false. Now, like I said, this doesn't actually disable prefetching, but it does do something so much better. It actually allows you to toggle between two different modes. The default mode, when this value is set to true, which we've already talked about, is that prefetching when the link enters the user's viewport as you scroll. Now, the disabled mode, which I love, is prefetching only when the user hovers over the link. So you're still getting some of that preloading power, but without any of the impact of the preloading when the link enters the viewport. Now, if you want to avoid preloading altogether, you would just use a native anchor tag, although this would only be relevant in very, very niche use cases and it's not recommended. A plain anchor tag is going to do a full page refresh and reload the entire Next.js React app, whereas a next link component with prefetch set to false will do an XHR request to load the target page's JSON file and then update the DOM using React's Shadow DOM. And it's just going to be significantly faster overall than using a basic anchor tag. So when do I enable preloading? How do I choose between loading when the link enters the user's viewport versus when the user hovers over the link? Well, the answer is actually super simple. Generally, we only want to use viewport preloading for high traffic links and any large real estate items. So for example, high traffic pages in the navbar. So think above 25% click-through rate, hero banners and links or anything we call to actions, and then featured article links. Now, some of you might be thinking, is it really that feasible that a user will be overloaded with links above the fold and it'll impact performance? And it's actually a lot more common than you think. This is techopedia.com. It's a popular technology news website that posts your standard, maybe clickbaity tech articles. Now, this is a top tech website that garners a lot of traffic. Now, as beautiful as this homepage looks, you can already tell that there's a lot of links presented to the user immediately. In fact, the above the fold on this website homepage has 41 total links. We have 11 links in the nav. Of those 11 links, 4 of them are link dropdowns, which contain even more links that I'm not counting. We have a secondary subnav with 9 individual links. There are 7 articles presented to the user. Each one is a unique link to that article. And then inside each article block, we have 14 total sublinks. So each article also links to the topic page, so cryptocurrency, artificial intelligence, personal tech, and then also to the author's bio page, which in this specific example, one author is producing a lot of content, but assuming it's different, it would be 14 unique links. So trying to preload this page with all these links will cause performance problems for people with worse systems. So obviously you want to optimize this for the user to prevent their browser from immediately loading 41 different links. We want to preload on hover for pretty much all of the links on this page. There are only a few potential candidates where preloading in the viewport would make a lot of sense. Right? You want to preload those links that take up a large real estate on screen, like the massive featured article, and any URLs with a high click-through rate, so above 25%. So here I've done some amazing Microsoft Paint work to help highlight my points here and what some good changes would be. I've highlighted every link that could benefit from disabling viewport preloading in green and yellow. I used 2 colors because there were so many links, it was hard to differentiate the links from the green blob on the page. Now, I've also drawn some extremely elegant red boxes around 3 specific links on the page. I'm assuming that at least one of these 2 navigation links, so artificial intelligence or cryptocurrency, have a high click-through rate, so above 25%. I'm recommending that they preload them for the user because of that assumption. However, it's very realistic that the only preloading viewport item on the page will be the massive featured article, the What's Going On in Crypto Today from April 1st. You should use preloading viewport sparingly, as it'll put a lot more load on technically your server's bandwidth, but mainly the user's computer. It's a lot more efficient to default to preloading on hover for most of your links. Now, before we end, I'd like to cover when to kind of avoid using the Sitecore JSS link. I say avoid, but we're not really avoiding it. Just the next link might be slightly more beneficial. But I'm also going to reiterate that just to make it clear, you should always try to prioritize using the Sitecore JSS link when possible. It's way better for interacting with Sitecore and when authors are trying to author out pages. So you should only really use the native Next.js link if you don't have all the link field data passed in from Sitecore. So a good example to this is linking to social media sites. The example I'm using here is a share to Twitter button. I'm not getting a link from Sitecore that I can pass down to the JSS link. So I'm using the next link to dynamically create a shareable link that's going to use existing variables already inside my component. So I'm building a brand new URL using social page title and current URL from other variables that are already in my component. And then sometimes you have 2 different links, one that's a full link field and another that's only a URL. Because both NextLink and JSSLink share the same component name, you naturally can't import both at the same time. However, if you use a simple alias import to import the default Next.js link under a different name, then it'll allow you to use both components at the same time. So hopefully you've all enjoyed listening to me ramble about such a niche topic of the Sitecore JSS link versus the Next.js link. Hopefully you've come out of this with a better understanding of how Next.js handles linking and preloading and allowing you to build better websites for your clients. So does anyone have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Tyler. That was really insightful. And I will probably drop a first question up front. So how does JSS link behave with the internal anchor tag? You know, those that use hash character in front of them. Yeah.
Yeah, so it works just the same as an anchor tag would. So if you put a hashtag at the end of the link, it'll automatically scroll where you want it to on the page, assuming you want it in the same page. Same with query strings. It'll utilize it the same way, can update it that way. You can use the shallow or replace function to update both the hashtags and the query strings without it affecting the browser stack.
I see that you have made a comparison for a specific link component, right? Is there like a general understanding between using Sitecore JSS components versus Next.js components out of the box? Is it like a general?
Yeah, you pretty much always want to prioritize using that Sitecore JSS link out of the box. It is the same. So the Sitecore JSS link is just an extension of the next link component. So that next link component is built by Vercel. So it's just an extension. So you want to try and prioritize using the JSS link as much as possible. Does that kind of answer your question?
I think my question was more broader. So if there are other components, right? Sitecore JSS is extending. Sitecore is extending on top of Next.js's component availability. Would that be a general thought process that we should always prefer Sitecore JSS components to be used?
I'm sorry, I'm not quite understanding the question. Your mic's a little hard to pick up. Can you repeat that for me, please?
Okay, so the question is very basic, right? Like, are we just saying that it's only the link component? That's what we should prioritize using Sitecore JSS versus Next.js, or there are other components as well, which would more prefer to use Sitecore
Right.
versus Next.
I think you should always try and prioritize using the Sitecore components. Using the non-Sitecore variations will only be useful in like niche use cases. You should always try and prioritize using the Sitecore ones because they'll interact way better with Experience Editor or Sitecore pages.
And I will supplement your answer. The best component that you will definitely want to use from JSS is the image. Next image is absolutely powerful component compared to the default one. So you do lots of optimizations, cropping, caching. You must probably do the separate presentation, Tyler, about image component because it's even more powerful than link.
Oh yeah, Next image is an amazing component.
Thank you, Tyler.
But it's not limited to. There are plenty of other components that are much more optimized. I can't get all of them out of my mind, but you need to do your own investigation about it. Right? If there are no more questions, thank you very much, Tyler.
What I'm really going to be talking about is combining the headless commerce offering from Sitecore OrderCloud. I know you said that no one had talked about it yet before, so if you're unfamiliar, Sitecore OrderCloud is just the headless version of Sitecore Commerce. And then it sounds like everyone's very familiar with Next.js, so just using Next.js as the head for Sitecore OrderCloud and all the benefits of that. Also, yeah, that's basically it. You see here in the contents, I'll introduce myself. What the OC forward thing is kind of, I will be showing this the demo site as well, but essentially it's started kind of as a proof of concept, but at this point we now are using it as a accelerator for any OrderCloud websites projects in the future. Introduction, I'm Josh Oliver, I'm in the Milwaukee area. I work at Exentium, which is a partner. I'm an architect there. I've been working in web development, Sitecore development for probably 10 years at this point, maybe going on 11. I'm relatively new to Next.js. This is probably the most experience or most exposure I've had to it was working on this project. And then I have been Sitecore OrderCloud certified for quite some time, but what is OrderCloud Forward? This is just the name of the OrderCloud accelerator and demo site that we've created that I architected. The stack, as you can see on the left, Sitecore OrderCloud, it's in TypeScript. We're using Next.js 14, like the absolute latest release with App Router. Obviously, it's hosted on Vercel. We're using Tailwind for the front end, Auth.js for authorization, and then we have Stripe for payment. There's Yotpo for reviews, Avalara for tax calculations. I think we're using Sitecore Discover for search. I didn't include it here, but just basically pulling in a bunch of composable pieces just to build the site, a proof of concept. The goals of this website and the reason why some of these choices were made with Next.js, Tailwind, was to have a lightweight, performant, flexible, componentized, and reusable website. Because in the past with commerce solutions, they tended to be quite heavy with all the back-end business logic. So the idea was to try to make a really fast storefront. And that's why we kind of going off Tyler's thing. That's why we use Next.js because of things like Next Link and stuff. So the benefits of Next.js plus Sitecore OrderCloud. Some of this, if you've worked in Next.js, you guys probably already know, but we get extremely fast load times. There's robust caching in Next.js. Some of these actually, I should mention, some of these points are specifically like Next.js benefits, and then some are OrderCloud benefits. But the whole point of it is combining both of them. Like you get the benefit of both the cool things about Next and the cool things about OrderCloud. So like the load times, caching, that's pretty much all Next, but then the extremely flexible, that's more on the Sitecore OrderCloud side because of the fact that it is headless, it's not opinionated. You can do B to X, B to C, B to B. You can use basically any payment provider that has an API, any shipping provider. It's not opinionated really. There's not a lot of requirements as far as checkout flow. You can kind of tailor it to your needs. It comes out of the box with a lot of commerce features with like the backend code, such as like bundling subscriptions, products, users, user permissions, stuff like that. And that's the benefit to like the end user. But there's also major benefits to us as developers. First and foremost, it's much faster to develop on. The pattern of the components, standard pattern makes creating product details, listing pages, listing cards much quicker. Using Tailwind also standardizes the styling of it. The much faster build and development. Obviously, if you use TurboPack locally, you can make changes and see them on your screen almost immediately based on if anyone's worked with Sitecore Commerce non-headless in the past, you have to build, deploy, things like that. Unrestricted by software, I kind of spoke to this before. You could really integrate with any service that has an API, because if we're using Next.js, if it's got an API, we can integrate with anything. The reusability, this is more to the fact that if we are using Next.js and we're using Tailwind, the idea is that you can write a component once, be like a product detail page, a product listing page, and maybe use that again on a different website where it's not siloed to this specific environment. The other 3 points here, this is more specific to this project. It's not like a Next.js thing in itself, but given the caching, like the suspense boundaries, I'm not an expert in any one of these topics, the way Tyler delved into the link, but Next.js has so many like components out of the box that make performance so much faster. So just using the caching, the suspense boundaries, the dynamic static rendering, all of that stuff, we were able to get away with a commerce solution with like a mini cart, like checkout, without using a state management library. It's just everything's like an individual component, and like we have like the fetch memorization. So you can basically call the get cart 10 times on a page, but only the first call is the one that actually gets sent. So in the past, working with older versions, just native React with OrderCloud, a state management library was an absolute necessity because it's really hard to keep track of what's in the cart, what product is this, what's the stock of this, but this project has no state management at all. And then not having to deal with real complicated routing logic because we're using just the out-of-the-box Next app router, kind of takes care of all that. And then obviously this needs to be set up first with the no authentication logic, but we are using Auth.js, and it's kind of, once you've set it up, it takes care of all the dirty work behind the scenes with authentication. There's not much custom that has to be done there. So, and honestly, there's a million other benefits as a developer, but these are the main ones. What you're seeing on the screen now is our OrderCloud Forward demo site. Like I said, it's on Next 14 and OrderCloud. So all of these are just kind of examples. The site could be whatever you wanted. For this, we kind of took the approach of like a B2C clothing store. So you'll see a lot of clothing based components. Like we have the just standard collections, shop by brand. Brand carousel. This is like a call to action carousel, and then like trending products. This is actually Sitecore Discover. Their recommendations, just using analytics data, like, hey, this person visited this product, so, or whatever. Basically, these are the most visited products. We are integrating the Sitecore Discover tracking data, which is like kind of learning and trying to recommend products to you directly with the auth.js. So even if you're anonymous, as long as you don't clear your cookies, you would be getting tailored recommendations. This is the home page. I can go into the product page. This is powered by Discover. It just shows various products, all hosted in OrderCloud. The filtering, brand category, price, color, basically would support anything you could imagine. If I go into a product detail page, here we have a product detail page. All this data is coming from from OrderCloud. If you're not familiar with OrderCloud, there's a lot going on this page. So this is an individual product in the OrderCloud catalog, but we do have specs, which are the color and size. That's how OrderCloud splits products off into variants. From there, you can basically do whatever you want as far as the configuration of how a product is selected for color, size, whatever specs you have. But for this one specifically, this is a single shirt product with a color spec, and you see the available colors, and then a size spec. And then within these products, all of the combinations of the 2 or 3 or 4, there's kind of no limit to it, they're all automatically generated by OrderCloud, which is super cool. Then we set up right here that the stock on these is individual per SKU. So each variant has its own SKU. That's why you see like the large is grayed out here, because in green, the large just doesn't have stock. You will notice also like the big benefit is that this is so much faster than a lot of other storefronts commerce solutions I've worked with in the past. That's primarily, and that's actually, you have to consider this is on sandbox environments and stuff. This isn't even on the production endpoints, and it's still extremely quick thanks to caching and like the next link. So if I take this product and go to add to cart, we'll see here the mini cart gets updated. This is, like I said, it's not using a state library. That's just this mini cart right here is dynamically rendered, while the rest of the header will not fully re-rendered just because the mini cart updated. Like I said, in the past, using Commerce Solutions React, it was without using a state library. I don't even know if it's possible to have something like the mini cart update without having to remount like the header, because it's a part of the header, but there's no state library here. We have the mini cart here. You can obviously edit, delete, things like that. It's all OrderCloud out of the box functionality. If I go into view cart, this is kind of the cart page we've imagined. None of this is like set in stone. You could really do anything you could imagine here for the cart experience, the cart checkout experience, how many steps, things like that. Here's a shopping cart, same functionality here, edit, delete, things like that. Checkout. Here we've built a single step checkout. And this is kind of what I was getting at for the kind of the componentized nature of it being headless, it being on Next, is that this checkout here, single step, is essentially, when it boils down to it, it's a component with smaller components inside it. However, should we want to change it to maybe a multi-step where you put in first your address and then you go to a next page, put in your billing, shipping, payment, you can do so. You can kind of swap them out without having to like reinvent everything. And also, should you say, let's go to a multi-step checkout, you can run with that for a while and you could immediately switch back to your single step. Like treating these pieces of commerce functionality like they're almost like their Sitecore content components is something that we really weren't able to do as much in the past. And it really speeds up the development process, and also kind of, and like you could do anything you really want here as far as OrderCloud doesn't really restrict you. If I go through, select an address, this is just all, I did actually forget to mention, because we're using Next 14, these are all using server actions. So the data is being called on a server component. The actual fetch request is happening on a server component and then just being passed to the client. So for example, when I click the shipping type, this is a server action going back to the server component, like the node part of Next, and then sending it back to the client using the use form state hook. I think it's use form status now. I think React just changed it. So that's why we're getting all these like nice little loading icons and changes in the page without having to like micromanage the state of what's happening in this page. So I select shipping. Another feature out of the box OrderCloud is they do have loyalty program. They have the ability to create spending accounts, which you can use to use like get reward points. You could use it for gift cards. You could use it for a bunch of things, but essentially because I'm signed in, I'm a member, I'm earning 2 reward points on this order, and then I can go ahead and use these reward points, apply it to my order, and then I get a discount. This is like, none of this is custom, standard out of the box OrderCloud. Also, when I do apply that reward point, you see I'm getting a discount to $5. However, I still have to pay it with the with another payment. So essentially we have split payment right here already, and we could split it more into different payment types, but this is just illustrating the split payment. For payment method, like I said, we are using Stripe, and this is just the Stripe React library just dropped in here. There was a little bit of a challenge to get it to work with the server components, but it works fine. It's kind of like in its own little async bubble here on the page, but we enabled, the reason we went with Stripe is because out of the box, Stripe already supports a lot of payment methods, as you can see here, like Cash App Pay, bank account, Afterpay. So basically just by dropping this component in, this website can support all of these. It also would, it natively supports the, like if you're on an iPhone, it would support the, like Apple Pay, it supports Google Pay, things like that. Then if I just select a payment card, continuing here, we'll just, this updates here. Obviously you can delete all that stuff. Go to place the order, get the order page, pretty standard. Like I said, this is just Next.js calling OrderCloud API, so you can kind of do whatever you want here. That's kind of the normal checkout flow. The other big thing I wanted to cover here, and just want to make sure I don't go over on time, was subscriptions. That's one of the newer features of OrderCloud, and I really like the way they kind of handled it in the back end. It gives you a lot of freedom, and this was just kind of an idea of introducing subscriptions. This product here was, the imagination was like it's a mystery box of t-shirts. So let's say you pay $50 and then you get 3 t-shirts sent to you at an interval. If I want to go ahead and subscribe to it, first I have to pick the size, obviously. I can add it to an existing subscription here, which will go and grab my subscriptions and show what's already in them, or I can create a new one. Frequency, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, then start date, end date. End date's optional, name's optional, but the freedom, that OrderCloud kind of gives you with the creativity of how you want to support subscriptions is pretty cool. So I have just created the subscription here. It's added to my cart. In the cart, we also separate subscriptions and orders, or single cart, single products and bundles. They all like delineated. The mini cart, you can't update everything because I just feel like that'd be too much data in the mini cart, but you can still do so here before you check out. I'll just run through, I don't even really need to do this. I'll just go to my subscriptions here. So I already had a subscription. Here's the subscription listing page. Just call the OrderCloud to get all your subscriptions. The sorting all works. These are just server actions again, like I mentioned before. If you go into details, this is our imagination of what you would want to manage with a subscription. There could be more, there could be less based on whatever implementation you're trying to do. But here we have the ability to edit it. You can change the next order date, things like that. You just have the ability to pause a subscription. Doing so just prevents the subscription from firing on OrderCloud's integration job. So it keeps this around. So if you don't want to delete it, you have all your information associated with it, the orders, everything. It keeps it around, but it won't fire again until you resume. Cancel just deletes the entire thing. So that's mainly subscriptions. Also, I did say that there's a lot of functionality here. I could keep talking about it for a long time. Obviously, there's payments, address books, order history, order details, a lot of the stuff you would expect from a commerce website. All of it is just, like I said, Next.js components calling OrderCloud APIs. All of it could be custom. It could be changed the way it looks, the way it behaves. But the one other feature that I really wanted to cover specific to the site in OrderCloud is the bundling. This again is just a out-of-the-box OrderCloud feature where you create a bundle, you can associate products with that bundle. There's a lot of flexibility functionality you could do with that. For here, the idea was basically buying a curated look, like a set of clothes. So for this bundle, this is like the main product, right? It's this picture with these items, and then all of these individual products are associated with it. You can associate as many products as you want. When I go into it, there is a requirement here to have 3 products in the bundle before you can continue. And then once I have added 3 products to my bundle, 3 products to my bundle. Actually, I don't think this one has a price break. Let me go to this one. Yeah, so once I've added them, you're allowed to check out. Also, supported out of the box is this bundle savings. So every product has the ability to have a price break on subscription, on bundle. So basically this is kind of the idea of buy these together and you can save some money. And this is our little configurator built in Next.js. I can add it to cart and it'll show up here. It just shows up as the product and the pricing. I know I've been showing the site for a while. I think the main thing is it's kind of a fully functional, fully featured storefront built on Next.js 14 server. We're using the server rendering. We're using all the performance caching, all the good stuff from Next with Sitecore OrderCloud headless commerce. So if there's any specific feature that anyone has like a question on or anything you potentially would want to see, I could probably go over that. Or any questions in general.
If the audience have questions, please ask them.
Yeah.
If not, then I will do my own portion. And I have a bunch of questions, I believe.
Doesn't sound like there's any.
Doesn't sound, yeah. Okay, then I step in and probably start with what is most interested me is how easy to customize the starter kit. So are there any modular components that can be easily modified, extended? How do you basically step into that? So my understanding is that this starter kit is given for us to basically extend into what we want to make our own custom storefront. So how easy to do that?
Yeah, are you referring to like the starter kit that OrderCloud just released pretty recently? Because that does not, that's only the seller portal right now. Also, it's not on Next 14. This is kind of our own at Exentium, is like our attempt at creating a starter kit. So the idea here is that we've created these components in Next.js using Tailwind, using like standardized libraries. So it will be very easily moved to another project. I know that OrderCloud officially has released a starter kit, but right now it's only the seller portal. I don't believe there's a buyer portal at this point. So these still, this isn't exactly a starter kit itself. It's more of like an accelerator. It gets you, if you're going to start a site, it gets you like maybe 30% there. Some of these components, if you want to grab like say the mini cart itself, you could just use that as is, or you could just maybe use like the base project with the authentication setup, stuff like that, because the auth JS is configured to authenticate straight to OrderCloud. We were going to try to get it as an officially supported, like I forget what they call it, provider. But because of the way OrderCloud does its authorization, it doesn't really make sense to have it to be a provider. But it's a pretty simple setup. So it's kind of things like that. It's not exactly a starter kit in itself. It's more, this is what a Next.js 14 with server actions OrderCloud website can look like and how fast it can be. And basically I can't see any limitation. You could probably build whatever any B2B, B2C, B2X, anything on here. So that's kind of the idea, proof of concept.
So that's proprietary software I cannot use unless I start working for Exentium.
Yeah, we're not trying to, it really started as a POC, whereas OrderCloud storefront, there's not, I mean, before when this started, OrderCloud didn't even have their starter kit, but really the idea of like, hey, can we take all the benefits of the latest and greatest Next.js, which is now in 14 with server actions, and use that with OrderCloud, headless commerce. Because OrderCloud, you could put that on any head you want. You could put it on native React, you can put it on Vue, so it was kind of the idea of combining the two together. I think, in my opinion, it's probably the coolest and best way to do it. But like I said at the start, it's more of the combination of the two technologies, OrderCloud being headless and Next.js being fast and performant.
It's interesting. We at my company, who is also Platinum Sitecore partner, we also do have a starter kit for OrderCloud. We recently deployed, and it looks pretty much the same as what you demonstrated. You are maybe a few steps ahead, especially with server actions and with sub-router, but like the rest of the things is very, very correlated to what we have. Yes, because the engine is basically that same. We also have bundling. We also have this level of presentation and navigation. So pretty that same. Right. Any more questions from the audience?
Does not sound like it.
On the deployment of this into the more or less production environment, like how does it work? Does it support ISR and other benefits?
Yeah, so currently it does not, basically because of OrderCloud requiring, well, I'm curious because Next 15 RC with the partial rendering, I'm curious if it'll work with partial rendering, but there is a big problem with OrderCloud having to be authenticated no matter what, even if you're anonymous
Oh, yeah.
with caching and things like that. So right now it's kind of just pure dynamic. It's basically just on the the backbones of Next 14 just being smart enough to know like, hey, this link get cached, this fetch request got cached. There's not a lot of custom around the performance. That's kind of the point too, like, because Next 14, in my opinion, is probably the best head for a OrderCloud website. So you just get all those benefits kind of out of the box. This is not proprietary, or that's just what Next made.
What was the effort for building this starter kit? How many people, how many months, how many attempts?
Yeah, it was kind of a learning experience for me at least. I wasn't super familiar with Next.js. I'd barely worked with it at all prior to this. I think if you would put it in like normal project sense, and that was kind of why I put it as a benefit of the development cycle, is like it's quicker than it would have been in the past, particularly like older commerce solutions. I don't know if it was full-time dedicated, there's probably a few people, but it was on and off. I would say maybe like 2 months total time, effort.
Thank you, Josh. And that was really insightful.
Yeah, thanks
And if
for
there are no more questions,
giving me the time.
let's call it a day. Okay. I wish everyone a nice day and looking forward to meet you September 12th. We have the 9th session of Headless User Group. Bye-bye.